Hello, everyone, and welcome to Flickering Myth TV. My name is EJ Marino, and today Alan is joining me for another discussion. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here, always. This is a great time.
The more we're getting into these, the wilder our topics are getting, especially something like this today that is a little unfamiliar for you, a little unfamiliar for me even, because my knowledge of comic books compared to you is like this. Like, you are someone who I look up to in a comic book sense, because you're kind of a useless knowledge comic book guy. You're like, oh, that one run in 1974. And I'm like, yes, Alan.
Yeah, I'm a dweeb. Like,
yes, and I love
but it's
it.
not even like the thing is that with this topic, a lot of that is more modern.
Mm-hmm. I learned.
Old.
You are.
BS. Like, so, I have thoughts.
Yeah,
I have thoughts, and there could be a conversation here.
Absolutely, cool.
I have to preface my comic knowledge with that. It's all from like the 60s, 70s, 80s. So
yes, which is a great time period to have knowledge with. So let me introduce the topic. We are talking about pride in comic books, which is LGBTQ superheroes. This is a discussion not to... I don't know how to really phrase this. I just kind of wanted to talk about gay superheroes in the simplest ways. I don't know, with Joel Schumacher just passing away and how gay his Batman movies were, this topic was just like in my head. And I love this idea because I really, truly, up until Birds of Prey, I don't think we've had mainstream representation. At least, I guess they still didn't even acknowledge that they're actual gay characters with Black Mask and Victor Zsasz. Yeah. So it's there. It's there. We have eyes and a brain. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about first with you and your knowledge. Who do you think of when I say a gay superhero, which could be LGBTQ, anyone under that insane umbrella? Because I have one that is literally, I don't know what to describe it in the LGBTQ category, but it is here, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, so who do you think of?
My first immediate thought is a very vague one, because it's whoever from Alpha Flight. Because I remember, because I know that was a big deal, is that they introduced a gay character, or told you that one of the characters in Alpha Flight was gay, but I don't read Alpha Flight. It's John Byrne trash. And so I don't even, is it North Star that's gay?
I think it is. Yes.
Yeah. So, but I could be completely wrong on that. So that's my first immediate thought.
Of course it's a deep cut. Of course it's not, as one on my list, Batwoman, that has a goddamn TV show on CW. You're like, North Star, I think.
Well, because that was the first one, and people got pissed about it. Mm-hmm. Like, and that issue that was probably the most bought issue of Alpha Flight ever. Probably far and away, because people were like, they made somebody gay in here. Whether they had a positive reaction to it or a negative reaction to it, people bought that. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, oh, Alpha Flight is not a good comic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sometimes, especially with some of the characters I have, gay characters get stuck with not great people sometimes. And I'm like, please, it has nothing to do with us being gay in the thing. Sometimes we're just in bad mediums. Batwoman is an example. So yeah, who else do you have in your mind?
Batwoman is an immediate thought. They made Alan Scott's Green Lantern gay, and that's fine, but also
he's like 50s old gay. He's like Faye. Yeah. he's like Paul Lynde gay, I hope.
I don't know who that move was for. They were just
the old gays.
We don't use him ever, so why not make him gay?
At least we didn't get the ginger douchebag one, the one I hate. Oh, God.
Guy Gardner?
Yeah, I didn't want Guy Gardner in my LGBT.
That would have been great.
I'm not marching for him. I'm not marching for Guy Gardner, sorry. So yeah, I wanted to do I have some listed here that I think are really fun names, and the first three I have are couples. Marvel has a huge couple. DC has a huge couple. DC has two huge couples. So first one I want to talk about is my favorite DC gay couple. It's Midnighter and Apollo. Are you familiar with those characters?
Vaguely, not really.
Everyone else is. They're basically in that era where DC was mocking itself, where kind of Watchmen has it with the stand-in Batman characters. Midnighter is just Batman. Apollo is just Superman.
Uh-huh.
So there's a really cool arc recently where Midnighter goes into hell to get Apollo, and it is so good. It's really cool. So that's really interesting that I think that you don't have a huge background with these two characters, and they're pretty old. I don't like to look at my notes, but I kind of did not write down when Midnighter is from, which is sad because I feel like he is middle of the ground. I don't think he's like a new 2000s character. 98 he first debuted.
98. Okay, that's a little I mean, I've read comics past past then, but that's not where any of my deep cuts come from. And DC is so deep anyway that
Yes.
like there's still a ton of stuff
he is canonically married to Apollo. They are supposed to be interpreted as a parallel for Batman and Superman's world finest partnership. Just in their quick description. In 2016, they did get a whole arc where it is awesome to see, because Midnighter is the era of Batman parodies that are just brutal murderer Batman people. So he is vicious and violent, which is so cool to see. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, at least this gay character wasn't like an old school guy with it wearing a cape. Like some of the other ones that I feel like we get. He was like a cool badass. So yeah, to jump onto the Marvel side real quick, are you familiar with Hulkling and Wiccan?
Only from people talking about it for this reason.
Yes. Wiccan is awesome. We're going to be getting him allegedly in WandaVision. So because Wiccan usually comes with a speedster other half. There's like two of them. Wanda always has two kids. I forget the other one. I feel like his name is also Pietro Jr. probably because her weird ass relationship with her brother. But yeah, so Wiccan is one of her children who we would probably be getting he's usually in what's the Teen Titans version of the Avengers? Young Avengers?
I mean, there is a Young Avengers, yeah.
I think he's in that group where like
there's other like kid groups for
yeah. The Marvel
like,
kid groups are that's a whole different discussion.
New Warriors, yeah, like a ton of stuff.
But yes, Hulkling is a very cool character as well because Hulkling is just a Hulk. The Hulk family is strange that there is a lot of them, and I don't always know their connections. Like I don't know if Hulkling is directly related to any of I don't know if he's a cousin to Bruce or anything like that. No, he's a Kree and Skrull hybrid. Don't know how we got the name Hulkling. Okay. But he is a Kree Skrull hybrid, which is an interesting story within itself. That's a fun thing. So yeah, those are sadly, two of the most mainstream examples of couples, and neither one of us have a huge knowledge of it. Thankfully, Wiccan and Hulkling should be changing when we go over to WandaVision. I think the Disney Plus platform is probably perfect for a young CW-ish teen show. It'd be perfect.
Yeah, it could be. I think a lot of the problems with a lot of the representation in Marvel in the past, I don't know, 5 years or better, is that Marvel Comics is awful now. So yeah, and a lot of people will blame things like shoehorning in representation and things like that on them being awful. No, it's just that they trusted some really terrible creative people.
Well, and that makes it's interesting when we talk about modern Marvel struggling with it, and that where there is a modern DC example that I think has done very well, and it's the most mainstream. It's Harley and Poison Ivy. That whole era has been really, I want to say, beneficial to both characters anyway. Poison Ivy's a Batman villain that's always going to be there. That's one of his most famous. She isn't at the top of everyone's mind, though. You wouldn't normally be like, I'm going to put Poison Ivy in a movie, except for Joel Schumacher.
Yeah, unless you're Joel Schumacher.
Thank you for giving me that drag queen performance. One of the best things I've ever seen. We can go on a rant about how much I love that shaped my youth. But yeah, I think Poison Ivy now with Harley coming in and their relationship, the whole Gotham City Sirens, I think that's such a good future for these characters. Do you think that's helped both of them in a way?
I think it's definitely gotten those characters to different people. I think it's probably been more of a broader audience. Like I don't think that Poison Ivy had a lot of relevance before
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, and
yeah.
I think Harley was almost always going to be stuck as Joker's girlfriend without that. She's had her run, especially Suicide Squad and
Mhm.
all that, where she's kind of broke out. But I think this whole era with Harley, especially what they're doing with the Harley Quinn animated series, which if no one's
Mhm.
watching that, please go and watch it. It is fun. They made
I
Clayface
still
into
need to.
Roger the alien from American Dad. Clayface on that show is he does personas now. It's so good. Watch it. But yeah, they're starting to bud their relationship a little bit more on that, and it's so different and it's so fresh, and I'm really happy to see that is one of the better examples, and it seems to be uh welcomed, I guess. It's a little easier because it's a lesbian relationship. uh
Yeah.
I feel like men normally will buy into that a little bit easier than a same-sex male relationship.
Yeah, always. They always will.
Yes.
That's
But I
just
think besides that, but it never felt exploitive to the queer community as well. I think we're all
mhm.
kind of like, hell yes. That's a relationship I think we've all enjoyed. And I think that's kind of fun to see. Another example I have from the world of DC, and it's based on one singular line from one thing ever. Ozymandias.
Mhm.
Rorschach says he is, as I quote, potentially a homosexual. I think that is one of my favorite Rorschach quotes ever. Is when he calls him a potential homosexual. Which do we claim Ozymandias? Do I get to have him on my team? I don't think either one of our sides want him.
Yeah, I don't think you want him.
He's a little
I
fabulous though,
think
especially in that TV show when Jeremy Irons played it. That was that was the representation I wanted. But
I mean, that's fine. I don't think that's a particularly healthy representation because
yes.
you can go, if you want to talk about gay villains, you can go back far and wide, and like that's always like been a trope is the
Well,
gay villain.
well, yeah, and queer-coded gay villains, especially we go to Disney, was infamous for that for years, with all their villains
Mhm.
having a drag queen appeal, a gay appeal. Scar is such a fey character, and I think at the same time, DC Marvel has done it, but we've embraced them. Like I consider
Mhm.
Sinestro as my John Waters in space. Like
that's that's fair.
I mean,
That's
great
fair.
casting. If it was like 20 years ago, would have been my casting for Sinestro. But yeah, and I think Watchmen is one of those, since it is a bit more darker and adult, has a couple the older Watchmen have some of the more gay characters as well, not
Mhm.
the, Silk Spectre, Rorschach era. I think it was the first set had them, the Minutemen. So that's,
Yeah,
I
there
think
was one that was, I think, particularly referenced as gay.
he was used in the TV show as well. He has a hood,
Yeah,
something.
I think he's just called the Hood or
Yeah,
something.
of
It's
course.
the one
It's
that has like the
Watchmen.
noose around his neck.
Yes,
The one,
because
yeah,
subtle
yeah.
show, TV show. The other one, I'll finish out with DC real quick. With I don't know if you watched any of Doom Patrol, the
I watched
series.
the first few episodes. I'm fairly familiar with the
They
character
they
already.
do have Danny the Street. I
Yes.
don't know if you know. For anyone who doesn't know, Danny the Street is a genderqueer, a non-binary, I don't know, a street.
It's a street.
It is a street, which streets don't have genders, but that is played into this character where they could be anything and say anything, and just describes itself as, it's a very Pennywise kind of situation where it's like this
Mhm.
being that's beyond sex, gender, and like preferences. So yeah, I think that was such a fun, especially if you see that episode, there is a drag character in that episode. It's such a good thing. Doom Patrol, another show, much like Harley Quinn. If no one's watching it, please go out, seek Doom Patrol if you can. It's going on HBO Max now. So good. It's
Yeah.
very friendly to the LGBT community as well. There's vibes. I think I always forget the guy who's wrapped up. He is a gay character on the show as well. Matt Bomer plays him,
Yeah.
who's a gay actor. I always forget his name. He has the spirit inside of him. I don't know the Doom Patrol members. I know Cyborg.
Yeah. That is the. Damn. I mean, I've read like most of those Grant Morrison comics. I can't remember.
I do, but I think that's something what I've noticed though, much like Harley Quinn, it's always the alternative characters. It's always the more punk rock characters get this gay vibe, except for
Hmm.
one time in 2012 when Marvel decided to make Iceman gay. Oh, the gay Bobby Drake era. Yay.
Is that over? Did they make him not gay?
I don't know if
Did they dial it back?
Just much like DC has the problem with, like, I don't know the continuity now. This was all new X-Men from 2012. I don't know if that's still carried over to whatever X series they're doing now, written by somebody who doesn't understand the X-Men.
Well, I think Jonathan Hickman is doing the X-Men now, and he tends to be pretty good. I haven't read any of his X-Men, so...
Man, there was some eras where I never loved the X-Men, and which is sad because...
there's so much trash in the X-Men. There is probably more X-Men comics than Superman comics or Batman comics at this point, and so much of it is shit.
Yeah, especially that Joss Whedon era, too. Whew.
Oh. That's actually not the worst.
It's not the worst. I tried.
Yeah, he did follow up Grant Morrison.
And speaking of the X-Men, I think kind of what I want to wrap this out with is one of the biggest examples in the mainstream movie thing is, boy, is Charles and Magneto just gay boyfriends in those movies. Maybe not in comics, but boy, was Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen playing roles there. And with the same civil rights aspect, and that's something the horrible director who directed the X-Men movies, that I won't give his name on this podcast, he did morph it from the Black civil rights movement to the gay civil rights movement. And I mean, X-Men is a civil rights analogy.
Yeah, just in general. I don't think that he necessarily morphed it. I think it's always been about all of those things. He just came at it from that perspective.
When they're in BDSM leather, I have to see it like that, because God, did he do something.
I mean, it's through his lens.
Yeah.
So it definitely, I think it's definitely that more spoke to him on that level, but I think that's always been in the X-Men. The X-Men have always been a stand-in for whoever's oppressed.
Ex-civil rights movements as well.
Yeah.
So Jennifer Lawrence can make it about the ex-women in that last Dark Phoenix movie. Jesus Christ.
Oh,
man. Well, poor X-Men again. Movies, comic books, the animated series hasn't aged well, but it was a bop back in the day. It was awesome then. Yeah, I'm glad we had this discussion, just kind of to put more awareness on these characters, because they're really good ones. The Midnighter and Apollo book, if I can say anyone, if you have one of the bazillion DC services you can read comic books, go out and seek that one. It's a really cool story. It's so different. The Batman Superman stuff is there and it's fun. It's, if you've ever wanted Batman and Superman's weird broy bromance to go to the next level, it's a good example of it.
Yeah. They did when they had Renee Montoya as another
as the Question
in those
couple
backups.
Yep. Yeah.
Those Detective comic backups. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the polar opposite of the Question, and I'm certain Steve Ditko would hate it, but that's all the more reason to read it, I think. I
mean, look how much they've changed the Question when he was flirting with Black Canary on the Justice League Unlimited show and stuff like that. So that Question, I mean, that character has had a journey. Who I feel the Question should be an asexual being who has zero time for dating.
Yeah.
I feel like they should not have a sexual preference.
He's just kind of that's like, it's like Rorschach trying to hook up with somebody, because that's all that character is.
That Rorschach trying to talk to somebody. I just I don't want to see that. Okay, cool. I'm glad we had this discussion. Like I said, I want to bring awareness to characters. I'm glad Harley and Poison Ivy has gotten the crown of the cool gay characters. Who knows what Hulkling and Wiccan can get, and Batwoman will never have it until she has a good TV show, which won't ever happen. So yay.
Well, maybe Marvel will actually get some good creative people and actually do something with these ideas.
Yeah, especially once the Russo brothers aren't giving us gay representation, and it's just one of the Russo brothers saying, "I'm gay" in a scene in Endgame.
I had a husband. Bye.
I have a husband, and Cap's like, "Oh, I have a husband too."
He's dead. Bye.
Yeah. Yay, Marvel trying. But yes, awesome. So thank you for joining me for this. This was my way of celebrating the LGBT community. Actually, real quick before we go, I want to say down in the link below, I'm going to link a LGBTQ organization if people want to donate to it. Please, it's Pride Month, but also gay people exist outside of Pride Month, so help us then too.
Yeah.
We could always use it. So yeah, make sure you guys check out the link down below. Make sure you guys comment down below, talk about it. Who's your favorite gay characters? If you don't like LGBT representation in the comic books, tell me why. I would love to know. Make sure you guys give me a thumbs up.
Or don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't, but also for me, do it. I want to see your cast. All right, guys, make sure you guys subscribe, especially if you loved everything I just said about people who are different than me. Subscribe. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me, Alan. This was a fun discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. All right, guys, comment down below.